Hey, what's up guys? I know it's been a long time since I've uploaded a video. In the past year or so, I haven't really had the time that I would have liked to upload YouTube videos. Thankfully, now I'm in a place where I have more time to create content for you guys. And some of, if not most of you, are probably wondering, why is there a bagged police car behind me? That is my new daily driver. So guys, this is what I'm currently driving every day for work and pretty much everything else. It is a 2013 Dodge Charger Pursuit. This was actually previously a Alabama Sheriff Supervisor's car, the Shelby County, Alabama Sheriff's Department. And being the supervisor, it was basically the boss's car. So any use that a normal police car would get were being in a lot of traffic stops or just sitting and idling all day or being in pursuits. A supervisor vehicle wouldn't really be involved in any of that stuff, so it has pretty low hours for being a 13. I bought it in February, March of last year. Had about 67,000 miles on it. I believe it's just about to hit 80,000 miles. And as you can see, it is typical plain white or bright white Dodge Charger. It is a Dodge color, however, all the police cars are pretty much this color unless they're special ordered. Like here where I live, the Broward Sheriff Department gets this special green from the factory, which is not offered in any color, catalog, or anything like that from Dodge. Just a special color that the Broward Sheriff's Office wanted for their fleet. And as you can see, this has the giant Go Rhino push bar on it. There actually used to be lights and sirens mounted on it. See, there were lights right here in these holes. And there were two sirens, two speakers with a PA system mounted on the push bar. Now, a lot of people buy these cars and they are not in near as good a shape as this car was when I found it. I did get lucky. A lot of these things are pretty clapped out and they just have pieces missing and holes in them, and I do apologize if you can hear the landscapers right now. And some of you guys may have noticed, yes, it does have full-blown lights inside the windshield as well as on the back deck. Has the front visor lights, and I do have things like the factory wigwags front and rear hooked up. Now, of course, I'm going to show you guys the lights and everything and all the stuff I've changed on the car and kept the same. But first off, I'm going to give you guys a little backstory as to why I chose to purchase a retired police car and also put it on air suspension. Had to get out of that South Florida sun and into the air conditioning. But to make a long story short, ever since I was little, I've been kind of infatuated with emergency vehicles, emergency lighting, mainly police cars. I would actually buy scale models, 1/18 scale models, and turn them into basically marked or unmarked police cars with working lights and controllers with patterns and all that. And from there, it kind of grew into 1-to-1 scale, as you can see here, sitting inside my very own retired Dodge Charger Pursuit. Now, I ended up with this car for one of two reasons. Around the beginning of COVID a couple years ago, when the car market really just went crazy. For the first time since like the mid-1980s, used cars were at an all-time high. New cars were all over sticker or overpriced, or it was just really not the time to buy a car. Now, I had an S63 AMG at the time, a 2014, had tune, downpipes, wheels, was lowered. It was a great car, amazing daily driver. And the time came where I decided I wanted to sell the car. I actually had a good amount of equity in it. So I ended up selling the S63 to a friend's dealership. And with the equity, I was able to purchase this car. Now, could I have purchased another S-Class at the time? It didn't make sense because they were, like I said, all overpriced and just wasn't the right time in my life to buy another one of those cars. Now, being that I had two Dodge Chargers before my first S-Class, I had the two Chargers. They were both on air suspension. Same company that's actually in this car, Airlift Performance. This is the 3P kit. And so having those two Chargers before, I was like, okay, well, I can get another Charger. Now, being that used Chargers were very overpriced, there were tons that were just very high mileage, not in great shape, and nothing I was really looking for at the time. And I just remember back to building those scale models of the police cars, and I actually do have a lot of cop friends, and they're car guys just like me. I see most of them every other week. We go to car meets and all that. And I was actually telling some of them I'm thinking about buying a retired police car, and they're like, oh yeah, that's cool. They're great. They're very cheap cars. They're maintained very well because, think about it, if a police car breaks down in the middle of a police chase, and if it's out of service for any reason, then that's one less police vehicle on the streets, and then police can't do their jobs. So I decided to start searching for retired police cars, and actually searching for them wasn't as easy as you would think it would be. I looked on Craigslist, eBay, Auto Trader, all that. I did find a good amount, however, they were just very old, a lot of miles, very beat up, like I was saying earlier, holes everywhere, all the original equipment that they came with from the factory or the outfitter just was missing. And just a lot of the cars I found were just not worth buying at all. Now, I was lucky enough, however, to find this dealership called Space Coast Family Autos, a couple hours north of where I live in Florida. They did mainly specialize in selling retired police cars. They had a lot of them. They had several Chargers, Crown Vics, Caprices, a couple Explorers, and a lot of them were not in great shape, had a lot of miles. And I was lucky enough to find this one, which had, at the time, it had 67,000 miles, and if you can see now, it's just under 80,000 miles. And if I go to, let's see, if I go to vehicle info, you can see things like oil temperature, trans temp, engine idle hours, which is only 2,700, which is not that bad for a 2013 Charger. It was a highway patrol car, sheriff. It was a supervisor. Engine hours total is 5136. That's, since I've owned it, this car has been idling at different car shows. One of my clients is actually a Dodge dealership, and they had a Halloween car show last year. So the whole day I had this car sitting outside, aired out the whole day, because it has to be on for the lights to be on. And I will show you guys the lights in a little bit. I know you guys are excited for that. Basically, found this car, was in great shape, was able to get a good deal for it, and drove it home. And actually, on the way home, I was on the phone with my state trooper friend. He's in the Florida Highway Patrol, and I was asking him, like, how do I properly drive this car? Because there's just giant groups of cars that are just staying behind me, going very slow, not sure when to pass me. And if they're in front of me, they either accidentally brake check me or they get out of the way, and it was just very awkward. And the car had no tint on it. Now it's got limo tint on it, so I don't have to worry about that. But at the time, it was very weird. And when it comes to things like the lights, before I even bought the car, I also made sure if I was to add lights to this car, where I could and couldn't use them. Obviously, red and blue is really police only. Sometimes fire departments use red and blue, but for the most part, it's just police. So if you are caught using red and blue lights on the street, or you're pulling somebody over or acting like a police impersonator or a whacker, then you're gonna go to jail. So with that in mind, I wanted this car to use it for marketing. I just wanted to create something different that you don't see every day. So after talking to several of my cop buddies, they told me that the only times you can ever use red and blue lights is if you're stationary and on private property. If they're for show use only, like they are in this car, like at a car show. I've been to several big car shows with these lights. Just people love them. Kids like it. They'll let them sit in the car, and I have a little air horn. You can actually hear it. So when I bought this car, it didn't have a horn because the siren used to be up on the push bar. So they basically disconnected that, and for whatever reason, there was a button on the steering column. So my friend that actually installed these visor lights from Phoenix, they're the Phoenix quad color, and there is one back there as well. I'll show you that in a little bit. And yes, it does have the full divider, cage, AR-15 mount, the dual color dome light. It's got everything. As you can see, this car has all the original equipment, or most of it at least. Some of it I removed, but I'll get to that in a little bit. But as far as the lights are concerned, I was able to purchase these lights from Phoenix. They're the new quad colors, so red, blue, white, and amber. Red and blue, obviously legal to use, stationary and private property. Like in my driveway right now, I'm aired out, so I can use the lights. But everywhere else, amber and white is totally legal. Like tow trucks, security cars, there's all kinds of different uses for amber and white. Actually, driving this car home, I actually had a blowout on the side of I-95. And a state trooper actually did end up pulling behind me and have their lights on, so I could wait for AAA to come and put the spare on, as I was not going to use the Widowmaker jack that is included with this car. Definitely would have been nice to have amber and white lights at that time, but like I said, that state trooper was nice enough to pull over behind me and wait with me. So once I knew that I could have red and blue lights on the car, obviously on when stationary and private property. Now, I would never impersonate a police officer. Obviously, there's so many people out there that have retired police cars, and some of them do add lights and sirens, and they like to mess with people, and then a lot of times it gets them in trouble. From the get-go, I knew I was never going to do that. I still have had this car over a year now, and I've actually gotten more compliments and just intrigue from police officers, not just my friends, but just random cops that I'll see around town, or just that happen to see the car. For example, the gym I go to is always tons of cops from different departments in the area that go there, and a lot of times they'll see it aired out at the gym, and if they happen to catch me, they'll ask me about it. A lot of them are very confused because they will tell me that it is very convincing. Like, it looks exactly like a real police car, and it is, but it looks like it's still in service, I guess. It's very clean. I had my friend do a paint correction on it, and between like the spotlight, the push bar, the lights, there's actually reflective chevrons in the shape of the Dodge logo. That was actually a Florida State Trooper's idea. I've had cops flash me right away with their light bar. I've had them wave at me, stuff like that. One of my neighbors, who's actually a sergeant in the city that I live in, he actually wants to take the car on the highway, so hopefully I'll get some footage of him doing that. So here we are in my 2013 Dodge Charger Pursuit. As you can see, if you are familiar with the interior of the Dodge Charger, it is, I would say, 75 to 80% the same. But you might notice things like the column shifter here. Usually there's a 5 or 8 speed shifter here for the automatic transmission. Obviously with the Havis center console, they moved all that. Now when these cars are retired, they basically make them so that you can't add things back, or at least not very easily, like lights and sirens and stuff like that. So this thing was completely hollowed out when I got it. There was this cup holder here. This armrest I actually added. All of these cigarette lighters actually had no power except for the one where the radar detector is. And that's one thing I want to point out. I don't know how many police cars have a radar and a radar detector, which is pretty funny. But actually, my friend that installed the lights, he was able to add power to the cigarette lighters and everything like that. And adding this armrest was nice. And actually, where my airlift controller is here, so I just velcroed it down, the controller for the radar was. And I left the actual radar system because it wasn't really necessary to take it out. Also, it's pretty stuck in there, and it's not in the way or anything, and it looks cool. So I took the controller for it here, put the airlift controller. There used to be a laptop mount here for the officer's laptop, and I had that removed. And I have a little iPad down here, which is pretty cool. And still got things like push start and regular AC. Obviously, you don't have the 8.4-inch Uconnect display that literally goes into this little insert here. Instead, you have the little one. But I do have an auxiliary cable. I can still get things like Sirius through the app. It does have radio. And I did do research and see if you can change the head unit in these cars, but for some reason, only the police cars, either the Charger Police or Pursuit, as it's called, it's the brain of the car, you just can't change the head unit. So I had to make do. I did the iPad, have the auxiliary cable, made it work. Not a big deal. Of course, you still have things like cruise control and all that, normal wiper stock and everything. However, in this car, you do have a pillar-mounted spotlight. So I'm sure you guys have seen spotlights before in police cars. Obviously, operates just like a regular spotlight, and it works, of course. You can see it is very, very bright. Now, I do want to kind of bring this car up to date a little bit eventually and add an LED spotlight. They're not really that expensive and very easy to replace. There's little things like tears from the officer's utility belt and the door panel here and the pillar, but small cosmetic things like that don't bother me and are really easy to repair. When I first bought the car, I noticed the passenger seat does not have the headrest, which is not really that big of a deal. Haven't had any passengers really complain about it. I guess just the way the cage is situated in the car, they just couldn't make it work. I don't really have much adjustability as far as the driver's seat goes, but still pretty comfortable. I'm a pretty big guy, but still very comfortable driving this car. And you can actually see the tray back here. This is where the printer was for the tickets. Didn't really feel a need to remove it. It's actually a great place to put stuff when you're driving the car. Girls put their purses there. Works out pretty nice. And you do have the AR-15 mount up here, which is currently locked. I don't really need to get power to it. Could remove it, yes, but it's original equipment. It's really cool. It's not illegal to have. And you can actually see where the Lexan here is scratched from the barrel. You can see the supervisor who had this car last. Looks like he took his rifle out in a hurry a couple times. And you actually have the divider here. This is a Satina cage, I believe. Now these cars all have different types of cages and seats and stuff when they're ordered for police departments. Now the Shelby County Sheriff's Department decided to order this car with this particular cage and this back seat, which is really just a vinyl bench. And I know it makes it easier to like clean bodily fluids and all that stuff. I can't imagine getting arrested during a hot Alabama summer after possibly just getting bit by a canine, and then you get thrown back here. There's really no AC. Like the AC in the front is amazing, ice cold, always great, but how much of it reaches back there, especially when this divider's closed, can't imagine. Now, what things I do miss that my civilian Chargers had was a backup camera. Now, obviously, you can't really make a backup camera work here. You could technically wire one in, but having that little screen kind of sucks. And being that I couldn't change the head unit, and it did have a very old, crappy police car mirror, I was able to have my friend who also installed these lights install a mirror with a backup camera. So with the column shifter here, put in reverse, you have a, I forget the size of the screen, but it's a good portion of the mirror. It's a color display. You can actually see my dad's Grand National right there. That'll be in a future video soon. Awesome car. And just put it back in the park. Not going to go any right now. It's sitting on the ground. But great mirror to have. And Chargers don't have the smallest blind spots in the world. And after having 2 of them, and obviously several S-Classes, I got used to driving big cars with large blind spots. However, I was in uncharted territory when I first got a car with a cage. So this thing, before I got the backup camera, really was a nightmare. Like, sometimes it's just a horrible blind spot, especially when you're reversing at night. And I figured before we get to the outside of the car, I'll show you guys the rest of the inside here. So like I said, we have the full Havis center console. That's all from the factory, or at the very least the outfitter that did all the work and then gave the car to the police department. It's pretty funny. When I bought the car, it came with this little keychain on the key fob here. Shelby County Sheriff, Alabama. It's got their address and all that. I guess the car's number was 1313. And I have tagged them in a few videos. Like when I first bought the car, I did a big smoky burnout. And they actually did like the video, which is pretty funny. And I've also posted videos of this car like at Dunkin' Donuts and aired out in the drive-thru and stuff like that. So it's good to see that they have a sense of humor and their car went to a good home. So continuing on here, of course, we have the controller for the airlift suspension. See if we just un-Velcro it here. I'll show you guys just raising the car up. Now that noise you can hear right now, hopefully you can still hear me, is the compressors in the trunk, which I'll show you in a little bit. And then holding it down again, you can actually feel the car lay down on the ground, which is pretty crazy. Never gets old. Wait for it to go 0. Put the remote back. We'll wait for the compressors real quick to finish. And continuing down here, we have the controller for all the lights. This is the Phoenix 4200 data link. This is pretty much the best controller money can buy. And you guys probably noticed all these different stickers and all that. So when I bought the lights, also came with basically these adult sticker sheets, I like to call them. And basically all these stickers, it'll say the same thing, but like in 4 different sizes for the different buttons, just so you can really personalize it and, you know, have what you want as far as the lights and all the different modes. So most of this panel here is not functional, and the computer program you need to use to program the controller is actually a nightmare to use. And I don't envy any of the outfitters that have to do like dozens of these cars a month for police departments for their various like needs as far as lighting and all that. So with all the different patterns and outputs that my lights offer, and if I actually move this panel here, you can see the brain in there and all that, and I can actually manually control the patterns. If I have the button active, I can choose what patterns and what colors are active on any button, which is pretty cool. So for this one, code 3, press it real quick. This is like red and blue, and it's whatever pattern I chose. Hazard is amber and white. Front mode is quad, so these are the new Phoenix quad bars, and these are the visor bars for the Charger. It actually fits in perfectly, bolts in under the visor bar here, see there. So very easy installation. And this is quad color. This is amber, white, red, and blue. And then you have the same settings for the buttons for the rear light bar, which is on the back. That's also a Phoenix quad light bar. And for the rear light bar here, you have things like the amber, the traffic director, the arrow sticks. And flash mode is what I use for the front and rear factory wigwag, which is pretty cool. My buddy who installed the lights was able to actually find the connection for the factory wigwags, which is when the lights go back and forth, and hook that up. And work light front and rear, that's just basically pure white light, like kind of when you get pulled over, the cop puts their white lights on in front to kind of light up the interior of your car. And then everything else just is inactive. Like, I can press it, but it doesn't actually do anything. It's not assigned to any function. And these are just stickers that I thought sounded cool, like wigwag, phaser, radar, this, takedown, warn, so all that. These are just for more settings. So So there's really endless customization with this thing, and I've only just scratched the surface with the lights that I currently have in the car. Don't plan on adding any more in the future. Definitely no sirens. Like I said, not out to impersonate a cop or anything like that. Just wanted a fun daily driver that was unique and something that I could put on air suspension that, you know, you haven't really seen before. Obviously, I don't know how many people have seen a bagged police car. There are a few that I've seen for sale here and there on like Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist. One of them was actually the newer generation, which I would have liked to have. However, most of those cars that I found are all-wheel drive with the V6, the 3.6 liter Pentastar engine from Chrysler. Now this one does have the 5.7 liter Hemi. It is rear-wheel drive. It is the third car that I've had with the 5.7, and it actually sounds way different than those other two cars did. I'm not sure if that's because it's less of a firewall, it's got some kind of a police tune or special intake, but it does sound pretty cool. And one thing I do want to show you guys is this car does have all the original like documentation that it originally came with in 2013. You have the Charger user guide here, user manual, still wrapped in the cellophane. Pretty crazy. The original window sticker, which I actually just ripped the other day like an idiot. But original window sticker, 2013 Dodge Charger Police. It is the Pursuit. Like in 2013, like halfway through or 14, they changed it to Pursuit. But original window sticker. You have the quick start guide here for the radar system, which is the Raptor RP1. You see, Raptor RP1. And it's pretty cool. It's got the certificate of accuracy, signed in 2013 by a technician. Pretty awesome. And this car is really a time capsule. Like I said, a lot of these cars are just not taken care of, and there's no original equipment or any kind of documentation that they come with, which makes sense because, you know, they're not meant to be collector cars or anything like that. But I've always thought they were very cool and just different from everything else. And you can see, to get into the window sticker here, you can see a base price of $29,900. Bright white clear coat, 5.7 V8, 5-speed automatic, which I really didn't miss for my other two cars, but it's really not that bad. The police version is a little bit more heavy duty. Just lists all the standard stuff. And then for optional equipment, you have the heavy duty cloth bucket seats, 120 bucks. Deactivate rear doors and windows, $25. The Hemi is a $2,200 option. Then it's got things like the performance exhaust, the 215 millimeter rear axle, the spot lamp's an option. There were actually these wheel covers on it before, or hubcaps, that were basically like the Charger SXT stock wheels. However, there were hubcaps on the Steelies. And the owner of the dealership was cool enough to pop the chrome caps off of another car and put them on this car for me. You see a total price of $33,000. It actually had a pretty nice warranty. It's pretty cool. You can see this vehicle was built especially for fleet. So the Shelby County Sheriff's Department ordered this car in 2013 with not really sure how many others, but thankfully this one made its way to South Florida so I could buy it. So I'll put all this stuff back. Alright, so outside the car here, you guys can see it's still completely aired out. I'll air it up for you in a little bit so you can kind of see my ride height. Do want to show you guys the back seat. Being a police car, you do actually have to unlock it twice. There we go. So you can see that $25 option, which deactivates the rear windows and gets rid of the handles. Some cars actually have handles, but somehow they are just deactivated. This car just has none. And if you sit in the back of the car, try the window, the actual button does not work. Why there's a button there, I'm not sure. The just regular windows in the back. Some cars come with like the bars on the windows or the little plastic like Lexan windows, but this car just has regular windows here, and you also have no door lock. Now just for you guys, I will get in the back here. Not really sure what is so appealing to people when they want to get in the back of this car shows and stuff like that, but you can see here, manufactured by Satina. As dividers go in cages, and I haven't been in the back of that many police cars, but I can say that there is almost no room back here. I'm about 5'11", and my feet are, I can't even plant my feet flat on the ground. It is just, I get it, it's not supposed to be comfortable. And you do have the seat belts and stuff like that. And this the seat, it's basically just a vinyl or plastic bench. You know, you do have seat belts and stuff like that, but there's pretty much no airflow back here. And like I said, if that divider's closed on a hot Alabama summer day, you're gonna be roasting back here. No grab handles or anything like that. The floor is just like this hard, like rubber or plastic material. It's pretty soft here actually. But other than that, it is just a basic police car back seat. You do have the Phoenix Quad 800 light bar or light stick back here, which I will show you more of in a little bit. But for the time being, we're going to get out. Actually, getting in and out of this car when it's aired out is usually not really that fun. But just taking a step back here, it's hard to appreciate in pictures and videos just how low it actually is. I'm going to make it under here. I don't know if you guys can see this. It is completely, like, pretty much on the ground. Most of it's touching. Pretty much the same in the rear. The car is not quite laying frame, but most of the car, the exhaust, all the lower panels and stuff like that is touching the ground. The sway bar, the subframe. Now the last two Chargers I had, they were also on Airlift Performance. This is a newer, up-to-date kit with the app and the digital management and all that. But those cars had 22s on them, and they were very low, but I could never quite get them to actually touch the ground like this one is. So this car has the 18-inch police steelies, and it just looks awesome. Now the thing with these cars is, I didn't know this when I bought the air suspension, but you cannot add spacers to these cars. You can't adjust the camber. You really can't do anything. Now the way that they installed the kit here, I pretty much got lucky with the fitment. I don't know if you can see up in there. It is resting on the fender liner, and the way that the fitment is in the rear, no spacer or anything, it's just tucked up in there perfectly, and it just looks wicked. So you have the rear here. See, those are those reflective chevrons in the Dodge logo. And I was saying, again, that was a state trooper's idea. It's actually pretty funny is I have this plate. It's a Florida Sheriff's Association. Just a regular plate that I got from my local tag agency. And it is hilarious. Now, I don't own this car to be an asshole or anything like that. I didn't buy it so I control people or impersonate a cop or anything like that. And like I said, I was in the market for a new car. I wanted something cheap and reliable. I know the Charger platform so well. I was like, okay, well, we'll see if we can buy a retired Charger police car. And then I found this, and a couple months later, it was on air suspension. As you can see, it looks unreal. The way it sits, compared to my other Chargers, has a little bit less negative camber. Like I said, you can't adjust it on these cars for whatever reason. They have big chunky sway bars as well. Handles way better than the other two cars did. Actually, I'll open up the trunk here. You can see my trunk setup. So I wanted to keep the trunk functional above all. So I have the 5-gallon seamless aluminum tank here. The two the Viair 580, I think they're 580C compressors. Still need to get a fire extinguisher for this. This is actually the spare tire that ended up getting me home the day I bought it, and we just put it right back in there. Have the Widowmaker jack and a couple other things that were in the car that I removed, decided not to throw out. I'm not really sure what this was, but I removed it, and just can be back there for the time being. And things like this antenna. This actually was plugged when I bought the car, but the owner of the dealership was cool enough to take this off of another car and put it on for me. Same with the chrome caps here on the wheels. Now, this car wasn't always a slick top, which in police car terms means it doesn't have a light bar. It has the visor bars down here. Now it's a slick top, but it began life as a regular marked police car. So it had a light bar. You can see these kind of this indentation with these scratches on the paint. That's where the light bar kind of mounted to. And then the whole wiring loom that connected to the controller inside was here. So just got some magnetic little antennas. It's pretty cool. And then my friend who installed the lights plugged this up for me because it had all these exposed wires. On the passenger side here, there was actually a non-lethal shotgun mount that took out most of this here. So I decided to have that removed. Every time one of my passengers would get in the car, they would just bang their knee on it and just complain, and I did a couple times myself. Wasn't fun. So other than that, it's just a regular Charger interior, except for having a lot of police car stuff inside. But for the most part, it's just a basic Dodge interior, nothing too crazy. And like I was showing you guys earlier, the push bar here made by Go Rhino. used to have lights here and sirens and stuff. There actually was a siren behind the grill when I bought the car, but the wire was snipped and it just wasn't going to be active, nor would I ever want to use it. I don't have a reason to use a siren, just needed a horn, which is why I purchased a small electronic air horn, and my friend wired it to the mysterious button that was on the steering column. And you actually have a Dodge badge here, and there's the logo, which is the reflective chevrons on the back bumper. And another thing I did was I added new headlights. For my birthday, my sister's boyfriend actually got me these new headlights. The ones that came with the car were just very cloudy. What I do like is it has a clear side marker here. Before it was just amber. There is a light in there, but the actual bulb is orange. So it's not like this needed to be orange or amber. So very clean, very nice. Didn't want to get projectors or anything like ricey or aftermarket. Just, you know, just kind of keep that look. Of course, we have the spotlight here. Like I was saying, to change it out for an LED one would be very easy. This one is it's an older halogen. It's very bright, but it's just kind of yellow and gross. Now, as retired police cars go, or even active duty ones, this probably has some of, if not the nicest paint out of any of them. When they retired the car, there were sheriff stickers on the hood and down the sides, and whoever removed them didn't really care. They just pulled them off. They created a ton of scratches. So my friend Oscar from USA Greenwash, he did a full-on paint correction, polish, sealant, all that on the paint. Looks amazing. It is a little dirty right now, however, it just does look really nice. Still some residual scratches left, but before you could see the circle where it had the sheriff star in the middle, and now you can't see anything. It just kind of looks like a mix between unmarked or marked, kind of like what a lot of the Florida Highway Patrol cars are. So right now, the last thing I want to show you guys is what the car looks like when it's driving or all the way aired up, and I'll also put the lights on for you. Start it up. Goes to its little system check. So first we're going to put it to the ride height, and I'm going to put on the front mode, rear, flash mode, so now you guys can see that it's currently raising up to its factory height or drive height, whatever you want to call it. So these are the factory wigwags that are on right now. Sorry if the fan is super loud. These police car fans are just constant. So you have the factory wigwags, which is the high beam, and then you have the low beam, which I was able to wire in and have like 2 different speeds. So there's that. And this is, like I was saying, the new Phoenix quad light bar. So this is the quad mode. So it's red, blue, white, and amber. And like I was saying earlier, I can take off that cover in the center console and choose from like 40 different patterns and several different colors. Same thing in the rear. You have the quad light bar in the rear, as well as the wigwags, which just go at 1 speed. Now here's the thing. Let's say I was to drive on the road with just red and blue. Now if I got behind you and I put the red and blue lights on, that is an instant felony impersonating a police officer and everything that goes along with it. However, that is not why I bought this car. Those were never my intentions. And like I was saying, there are people, police impersonators or whackers, they buy these cars and they just have the intentions of messing with people, whether they actually pull them over and get out or whether they just keep going and just want to have a good laugh. I never found that funny. I have a lot of cop friends. I'm not out to make them look bad or in any way. Hence why I was even asking them what's the proper way to drive this car. But I've always just been fascinated with police lighting and really how the technology has evolved over the years, because back in the 60s and 70s, these cars just had these giant rotator lights and that was pretty much it. So it was always cool to see how far this technology has come. And I can't imagine another 10-15 years where it's going to be. We also have the same in the rear. This is code 3, just red and blue. Very cool. And another cool thing is I was able to activate the DOT functions that come with these light bars. So when I hit the brakes, do the turn signal, stuff like that, it actually syncs up to the light bar. And even what color it is, it could be red and amber in the rear. And I can actually control like how many different little modules or pods light up. Now the last thing I want to show you guys is has nothing to do with police cars. It's just one of the reasons I wanted this car was because I've had 2 bag Chargers previously, and having a car and air suspension is a lot of fun. I've always been into the stance cars and stuff like that, not like the crazy negative camber where they're static and they drive like that and it just ruins the drivability. But this car drives better than it did from the factory, but when I park it, I can lay it on the ground. And really any police car I would have bought wasn't necessarily always going to be a Charger. I would have ended up bagging it. However, like I was saying, I just knew this platform the best and it was the easiest to work with. So just by holding this button here, never gets old. And once again, I want to thank the guys from Corsa Technic in Pompano Beach, Greg, who installed the kit. On the last 2 cars, the airline that dumps out under the trunk, a lot of people, like my sister has a bagged Lexus ES350. Her line that dumps the air or purges the air is inside the car, so it's not necessarily loud on the outside and it's kind of tucked in so it doesn't startle everyone on the inside. But this car, he dumped it, basically cut a hole and dumped it out under the trunk. So when I air this thing out, and let's face it, the last thing in the world you're expecting a police car to do, especially when it does look this convincing, is to air out. And just the reaction that I get from people is just priceless. It makes buying this car and all the money I put into it so worth it. Like I said, I've been in supercars before and haven't gotten nearly as many looks or people asking questions and taking pictures as when I dropped this car. And if you were thinking about purchasing a retired police car to have as a daily driver, turn into a race car, show car, or if you just want to mess with people, while I do not advocate that, because eventually what comes around goes around and either you're going to piss off the wrong person or a cop's going to see you and you're going to end up in jail for police impersonation. I've actually had nothing but pleasant experiences with cops who have seen this car that aren't my friends, have never seen me before ever, and they ask about the lights. And as soon as I show them, they don't really care. They just think, oh, cool. And then they see the air suspension and they just start asking me how many miles are on it, what year is it. So as long as you're upfront with your intentions and you're not out to commit felonies or obviously impersonate a cop, then owning this car is not an issue, and neither is adding the lights to it. The only things I really changed to make it look the way it does now is I took off the original like hubcap things here and I put these chrome caps on, and other than the antenna and those stickers here, which is, if anything, is for safety, but other than that, it's all in good fun. I just always thought that police cars look so cool. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed watching this video on my bagged 2013 Dodge Charger Pursuit. I definitely want to have more of this car on the channel in the future. Like I said, I always have it at different events and shows, and just really anything that I can use it for marketing, I do. And it's just always a car that just gets a lot of smiles. I can't even tell you how many times I've had friends or just random people at car shows ask if they can sit in the back and take pictures, and it's just nice to see other people getting as much enjoyment out of it as I do, and it's definitely something that's staying with me forever. But as always guys, thank you for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe, hit the like button, and stay updated on all my future videos. See you next time.